Typhon.
Typhon is a tremendously strong, powerful monster that's challenging Zeus himself. It's a last gasp effort, and the final monster, the final challenge he has to put down in order to secure his reign over the universe.
It is a supernatural deathmatch, a decisive struggle between good and evil. And it will all come down to the ultimate weapon.
As Zeus and Typhon are engaged in this final epic battle, Zeus eventually gets the upper hand and wins via his lightning bolt.
With one final assault, Zeus drives Typhon and his Titan allies down into Tartarus, where they are damned to spend eternity in a fiery abyss. According to the ancients, it was across the Mediterranean, on the island of Sicily, that Zeus's enemies descended into hell through the volcanic crater of Mount Etna. Local legend says Typhon is still inside and has been behind all of the volcano's eruptions over the centuries.
Greeks used this myth as a way of explaining why lava was constantly pouring out of the volcano. They explained that as either the remnants of Zeus's lightning constantly shooting out, or of the flames of Typho, who's still breathing just a little bit, exploding flame out of the center of the volcano.
It is also said that Typhon causes destructive windstorms. In fact, his name is the basis for the word typhoon. But in the myth, the storm clouds have broken, for the time being. Zeus's victory over his father makes him the king of the gods, the absolute ruler of the universe. So goes the myth. But what is the link to reality? In 2003, at the base of Mount Olympus, a lost temple was discovered. It was the centerpiece of an ancient city known as Dion, and it was dedicated to Zeus.
Dion was a city that was built at the base of Mount Olympus, and so it's very close to the home of the Olympian gods and goddesses and where Zeus lived in Greek mythology. In fact, the name of the town, Dion, means Zeus.
The Dion temple dates back to the 5th century BC, the golden age of Greek mythology. Scattered around the site are marble blocks with unmistakable engravings. Eagles. In ancient Greece, eagles were the divine symbol of Zeus. But there's more. This headless statue was found in a nearby riverbed. Carved into its 2,400-year-old base are 3 words: Zeus the Highest. There's a debate among experts about what this reference to the highest means. Some believe this statue could be a missing link between Greece's worship of many gods and the single God philosophy of Christians and Jews, and that this find is proof that the Greeks were embracing the idea of one God on their own before the arrival of Christianity.
The Greeks sometimes identified that highest god with Zeus. After all, the word Zeus in its dative form, Theos, is where we get our word Deus. So there's an etymological reason to understand Zeus as the highest deity.
Starting in about the 3rd and 2nd and 1st centuries BC, we have different philosophical and theological schools that arise and that start to propose a very strong view that there is only one God and that all the ancient stories and all the ancient tales are actually just metaphors that reflect different aspects of what this divinity is all about.
For the people who worshipped at Dion, it's clear that Zeus was different from all the other Greek gods. In fact, he may well have been the only one that mattered. In the myth, Zeus has achieved the absolute power he has long sought. But that power will soon be threatened by an unexpected foe. The king of the gods is about to be betrayed by the person closest to him. Zeus has won his epic clash with the Titans. He now sits atop Mount Olympus as king of the gods and master of mankind. The ancient Greeks worshipped Zeus above all others, even though he was fatally flawed.
The ancient Greek gods are very relatable. They have faults, they have strengths, they have weaknesses, they have all the things that normal human beings would. In fact, when the Greeks in these early times think about their gods, one way of trying to understand it is that they see their gods as being a lot like you and I, just really, really big.
According to the myth, Zeus has one very human weakness that threatens to be his undoing: an uncontrollable sex drive.
Zeus likes the ladies. That's one of the most endearing and enraging things about him, is that he has this very, very human character, that he never saw a girl that he didn't like.
Zeus will stop at nothing to seduce his conquests. He even uses disguise.
Zeus visits mortal women in various guises, whatever it takes to consummate the relationship. So in different tales, we hear of Zeus turning into an eagle, turning into a swan, turning into a bull, turning into all these different shapes, turning into human beings to mimic a woman's husband's face, to trick the women as best he can into having union with him.
A beautiful young goddess named Metis is the first to capture Zeus's attention. He takes her as his wife.
Metis is a very attractive and appealing young woman, and the quality that really sets her apart is she has practical wisdom. In fact, her name in Greek means practical wisdom. When Zeus spies her, he finds her very appealing.
But Zeus's affection for Metis is overshadowed by a dark prophecy that threatens his grip on power. He is told that she will bear him a child who will one day seize his throne. Suddenly, Zeus, like his father, must fear his offspring.
Zeus is representative of this awful tradition that starts literally from the dawn of time, of sons destroying their fathers in order to take prominence.
But Zeus vows that this time will be different, and he takes a drastic step to make sure of it. He swallows his wife, alive. Once again, family love falls prey to power, its history repeated. But this horrifying act will make Zeus stronger and wiser.
By swallowing her, Zeus internalizes Metis, or cunning and prudence, all at once. She becomes a part of Zeus. In a sense, she's probably imprisoned in his stomach, but he also takes on these greater qualities of intellectual ability.
This to us seems a little strange, but it's important to remember that for the Greeks, one of the places that some Greeks thought that they carried their wisdom and their ideas was actually in their stomach. So when Zeus swallows Metis, he actually takes her into the part of himself where really a lot of his best thinking was done.
With Metis gone, Zeus is in need of a new wife. And like his father before him, he finds one in his own family. His sister and fellow Olympian, Hera. She's not like Zeus's earlier conquests. She's mythology's most powerful goddess. The king of the gods has met his match.
Between Zeus and Hera, we actually see a relationship which is between two people who are on some level equals. So some of the conflicts between Zeus and Hera, I think we can see as the Greeks culturally working out, wow, what would it look like if you actually had two people with equal power within a relationship?
She's the queen of the goddesses, and she has wonderful beauty, she's supremely intelligent, she's mighty, but she's also exceedingly jealous because Zeus is always running after other women.
The king of the gods continues to step out with an endless string of sexual partners. He conceives well over 100 offspring with a host of lovers, both divine and mortal.
If I'm not mistaken, Zeus never has an encounter with a woman that does not produce a child. So in that sense, it's extreme virility, it's extreme power.
Zeus's ability to sleep with anybody matches a kind of fantasy of what ancient Greek males would hope or desire their lives to be. Men fantasized about such things, and they thought if there was an all-powerful god out there, well, he would surely act on those fantasies.
Zeus's promiscuity provided a perfect way for Greeks to connect themselves to him. Every corner of the Greek world boasted of having its own hometown love child.
As Zeus's fame and power grow across ancient Greece, more and more cities and towns want to be associated with him. And they therefore claim that there was some kind of actual liaison between Zeus and some mortal woman within their family tree that then produces the offspring that produces the local ruling families.
Evidence of this connection can still be found in cities throughout the Greek world. Athens, Thebes, Magnesia, Macedonia. All are named after children of Zeus. But there is one individual who isn't happy about Zeus's abundant fertility. In the myth, his wife Hera has had enough. She vows to make the king of the gods pay dearly for his chronic philandering.
She doesn't like to be humiliated in front of the other gods, so she will take it out on her husband.
Hera gathers the other Olympians together and lays the groundwork for a revolution.
Hera actually goes to her fellow Olympian gods and says, "Why is Zeus in charge? He's no more important or powerful than the rest of us. If we all get together, we can kick him out." So in fact, they rise up and they bind Zeus with chains.
Zeus awakes from a nap to find himself tied down, a prisoner in his own bed. It is the ultimate betrayal, a conspiracy carried out by the siblings he once saved.
The god revolt was the greatest threat that Zeus ever faced. There was never any sense that mortals could challenge his power, but the combined power of all of the Olympian gods really could have defeated him.
This was indeed one of the most horrifying moments in Zeus's career. He was actually about to lose everything.
But just when all seems lost, help comes in the form of an old ally. The 100-handers. When they hear Zeus is in trouble, they come to his rescue, breaking his chains as the Olympians run for cover. Zeus survives the coup attempt. Now it's time to exact his revenge. His wife Hera is sentenced to hang from the sky by golden chains. His son Apollo and brother Poseidon are condemned to hard labor. They are ordered to build one of the ancient world's most iconic monuments, the massive walls of Troy. It's another example of myth explaining the unexplainable. To the ancient Greeks, the walls of Troy seemed too strong to have been built by man, so Zeus's punishment of Apollo and Poseidon helped explain their existence. Their ruins survive to this day.
In antiquity, people thought it actually had been built by the gods or some kind of divine intervention on behalf of the Trojans.
In the myth, Zeus has dealt justice to those who crossed him. But it will be human beings who bear the brunt of his wrath. That wrath will arrive in the form of a massive flood, one that may even be linked to the biblical story of Noah. Greece's most powerful god has survived a coup attempt. He dealt swift justice to the conspirators, but he's not through yet. Now mankind will experience the full measure of his rage. In ancient times, fear of Zeus's punishment kept a lot of Greeks out of trouble.
When people did something wrong, they would have to be very, very careful that Zeus did not smite them with a thunderbolt. There are many, many examples in Greek history of Zeus destroying entire cities and civilizations because he felt that they had overreached themselves, that they had blasphemed the gods, that they had become too proud to be allowed to live any longer.
The Greek author Hesiod wrote that without the fear of Zeus's wrath, humans would live like beasts, and the weak would be in the hands of the strong.
Zeus is the order bringer. Zeus is the bringer of justice and the bringer of civilization.
When natural catastrophes occurred in the real world, the Greeks believed that they were sent by Zeus to punish evil men. Often stories were invented to explain what had made the supreme god so angry. According to the myth, Zeus's most frightening moment of wrath comes after he sees humans engaging in cannibalism.
Cannibalism was as important as it was in ancient Greek religion because they considered it to be so heinous. In fact, identification of eating human flesh is something that you would attribute to wolves or to dogs, but hardly to human beings.
Zeus is no stranger to cannibalism. His own father Cronus once swallowed all of Zeus's siblings. When he is confronted with the sight of mortals doing the same thing, he becomes enraged and vows to destroy the human race with a catastrophic flood. Nine days and nights pass. The rain is relentless, and the earth slowly drowns. The waters reach the peak of Mount Parnassus, which stands over 8,000 feet high. In all corners of the earth, the human race perishes. When the rain stops, only 2 mortals are still alive. Incredibly, they have survived the storm by building an ark. A raging flood, an ark, and only 2 surviving humans. The parallels with the Old Testament are striking.
It could be the biblical flood of Noah. It could be Zeus's deluge. It could be similar sorts of giant watery disasters that we see figuring in a wide number of different cultures around the world.
All these stories go back to a natural catastrophe that affected the collective memory of peoples living in the eastern parts of the Mediterranean Sea.
A deluge like the one described in these myths would have devastated humanity. But could such a flood have really happened? In the past decade, scientists have uncovered some stunning clues that prove it did. Research has shown that as the last ice age ended about 7,000 years ago, runoff from melting glaciers surged into the Black Sea basin, violently submerging nearly 170,000 square miles of dry land.
For these people, their entire world was flooding, and it surely must have seemed like they had angered the gods to have brought down this kind of disaster upon themselves.
Could this be the real-life disaster that spawned the story of Zeus's flood? In the myth, Zeus has held onto power in the face of strong opposition. But there is one more challenger he didn't count on: Jesus Christ. In the 1st century AD, his message would take the world by storm and dethrone Greece's dominant god.
When Christianity came and promised salvation in the afterlife, so gave people something to believe in, something that could happen to them after their death, Christianity found many followers.
Zeus's stranglehold on humankind faltered as this new religion spread across the Mediterranean world. Ultimately, the same civilization that worshipped him would reject him.
In antiquity, there was no more powerful force than Zeus, except for one: fate. Not even Zeus himself could overturn it, much as he wants to, on occasion, try to change fate or redirect it. He himself is even subject to its dictates.
Before the rise of Christianity, Zeus's myth captivated the Greek world for thousands of years and made him the most feared and respected of all the gods. But he was only one of many, from Greece and beyond, who would leave their mark on mankind. Some are still familiar names: Hercules, Hades, Medusa. And each of their stories is a window into a long-lost world, a code waiting to be deciphered.
These myths reveal to us in a uniquely powerful way the hidden strata that lay underneath our conscious, awake lives, our understanding of the world. And like an archaeology of the human mind, we can dig into them and see the deep recesses of human psyches. And I think that's what makes these myths so powerful.